this is just a map to show how many regional trade arrangements are in the world. Quite every area of the world has a regional agreement, of course, more or less deep integrated. These are the issues to debate that I suggest for your research. First of all, just for give you a picture of why regionalism is so important for a lot of discipline. This means in international relations. Can regionalism be a political geographical dimension of international scenario? The second one, in economic question, is it feasible a multilateralism including not only new powers, that means China, that means India, that means Brazil, but also trading blocs? A third question is a comparative question between EU and the other regional agreements. Can EU have a role in transmitting this new model of governance? Another one, this is very important lately, is the culture in international relations, the cultural factor in international relations. That means which is the relationship between culture and regionalism. Finally, the question is regionalism a step to globalization, to good governance? So, one by one, just a few words about these topics. I just sum up the four visions of future international order that normally we have. The first one is a borderless world. This means no boundaries, no state, only economy, only markets prevalence. This means the vision of Fukuyama, if you want, the total victory of market, or also Kenichi Omai, the end of state. The second one is regional blocks. It means come back to protectionism, all closed, geoeconomic rivalities. And third is the American Empire, an unilateralist USA dominating the world. Fourth is very interesting, but perhaps is not so possible, the new medievalism. That means no one source of single legitimacy, different level of governance, basically fragmentation. So what we have in reality is true that is a globalization of economics and the markets are integrating more and more. But it's not true that the state is at the end. At last, in some sector, for example, in the security sector, there is a fear about the formation of closed economies. But here is the very important point. That means we need transnational organization and more institution for governance of these regional areas. This is one more economic topics. It's possible to have at the same time regional blocks and new power competing or collaborating in the same scenario. What we have to understand that is the redistribution of power. We have a decrease in supply of international public goods. The international public goods are the environment, the security, the control of the frontier. We have a decrease in supplying this kind of international public goods because the only superpower is not able to ensure this kind of distribution. At the same time, the globalization increases the demand of international public goods. This combination of factors, for what we concern, we have a formation of many regional agreements, and this is a reaction of states. Of the states is not able to compete with the giant like India, like China, or the United States. This is the answer of Europe, for example. But what is good for integration? This means geographic proximity, less transfer cost, common policies, common standard, and of course the club membership. This means that at some extent the club has to be closed, has to be exclusive and not inclusive. You cannot include all the countries of the world because there is no balance between the cost and the benefit to stay in the membership. And this is a big question for Europe at this moment. The reality of the economics say that there is, of course, this new power coming up. There is an increase of regional integration, and possible would be the coexistence of regional blocs and large national players that perhaps will collaborate or will conflict on some issues. Again, the point I stress continually, and this is at the end of the research we made, that there is a global institutions and regional institutions for regulate this, for mediate this conflict. I go very fast on this. This is a comparison with the biggest and the important regional area in the world. Normally with NAFTA, this is the North American Free Trade Agreement, there is nothing too important to say because there is a comparison. It's a free trade with a well-aggregated group of states, and normally the Americans react with regionalism just for their national purpose, just to react to the regionalism present. Very interesting is the relation with Mercosur, because it is rightly inspired by the European model. The Mercosur has quite the same intention of a foreign policy, like civilian power, no? With cooperation, with neighboring, with stabilizing the area. Also with the ASEAN, that is very, very, very important. The difference with the European integration is the European integration is based on institution. The ASEAN is based on network working and more on the business community. Other big differences, a great differentiation inside. There is a political point of view, economical point of view, cultural point of view, linguistic point of view. There's a big differentiation inside the association. But this is the approach between European Union and United States of America with the interregionalism. This is very interesting to see because, as you see, USA make this kind of relation thinking of national interest. And they see regionalism as a tool to prevent regional areas. Perhaps I have to say something, perhaps I think that Chinese understood better the American foreign policy because it's another big power, big superpower. And probably they don't understand so well the European politics because the European politics is fragmented, is not a superpower politics, but is a civilian power. In fact, the ambition of the European Union are a multilateral world order in regionalized structure with institutions, with a pillared approach, so sectorial.
Did you finish?
Yes, 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yes, of course. And these are two maps with the main interregional arrangement. The last point is the very, very important point to me, and it's very interesting for the last studies. The relationship between cultural and regional groups. The question is, of course, is a classification very strong. In the middle, there are levels of classification. The first classification we can do is, are regional groups as civilization blocks? Or, better, is regionalism a channel for transcultural dialogue? If you think civilization blocks, this is probably not correct, because regional regiment, as we see in the CN, they present a lot of internal cultural differentiation. There are 6 different religions, a lot of ethnic groups, but also in Europe, we have a lot of cultural differences. Of course, this allows some politicians to make big declaration on the unity of culture of regional blocks. For example, the Catholics blocks or the Asian value. Another thing that we have to say that is not true, the mutual exclusion of culture. So the notorious class of civilization is not proved because the fault lines are inside the religion and the culture, not between the religion and the culture. And as you see, the cultural global interdependence is more important than the regional blocks. And just to finish, I think, but this is, of course, is a study research that we are doing on these topics, that regionalism is a channel for transcultural dialogue. Yes, because when you want to enter in a group, in a club, you have to follow some routes. For example, if you want to enter in the European Union, you have to follow the acquis communautaire. That means you have to follow the rules. So you follow democracy, rule of law, human rights. For this reason, also European Union has a policy oriented to civil power, supporting the feeling of common belonging in spite of national different identities, and also the possibility to reinforce the cross-cultural dialogue. Thank you.